Have been waiting to make this video because this particular company officially set off my alert to getting back to a level that I kind of been keeping on my radar. And this company is Cisco. Cisco is officially getting back to the levels to where they were during the dot-com bubble. And if you're not familiar with it, you've probably been seeing a lot about the dot-com bubble because it's being heavily compared to this AI bubble that Wall Street is really looking at, where this massive amount of money is being pushed into AI. They're looking at this thing as a bubble. And so it's been taking us back to the dot-com bubble back in 2000. Now, why is Cisco even on my radar? Why is this such an important company? At least in 2000. For the most part, Cisco was looked at as one of the companies that was going to lead the charge in the dot-com, well, I won't say dot-com bubble, but during that era where dot-com startups were growing massively. And now, me, I was born in 94. So from 94 to that 2000 era, I didn't get any type of feel for what that was. That type of stuff kind of came after the fact through research and, of course, with the stock market. But for Wall Street, we're potentially seeing the same thing happen again. I'm not going to say AI is a bubble. I believe personally that there's a lot of useful, well, I guess I would say depending on how AI is used in terms of automation, robotics, and a lot of things that is being used to kind of help make work efficient, whether it's in corporate, whether it's industrials, healthcare, all of that. But with it being so heavily compared to 2000's dot-com bubble, it makes sense why Cisco is coming back into the picture and why this thing is officially getting back to where they were before the dot-com, the entire thing popped. They were sitting at they hit $82 at its peak, but by that next, July, if I'm not mistaken, they were down to about $35 once the pop happened. And over time, from 2000, over the next course of, I would say probably the next decade, this thing was down over 90%. But I got an alert that I was looking for this thing to get back over $60. And it officially made its way back up there. And I was looking for this break at about 63, and we officially closed out today at $80.25. This is just $2 short of where it was in 2000 when the dot-com startups, the heavy investments that we were seeing, and all of the money that was being poured into those companies were happening. Now, Cisco was important because Cisco was looking to be the company that would provide the networking hardware for the dot-com age. And so when all of these startups was coming about, billions in dollars were being pumped into these startups. Cisco was obtaining clients, which were these startups. But when the bubble popped, all of these companies started pulling back. They had a hyper amount of, I guess I want to say backstop, but they had all of these orders. But then once everyone started pulling back, they were left with a hyperscale of hardware, whether that was supposed to be pushed out to these startups. But when everything came crashing down, of course, they were just stuck with all of these things. And so this thing went from 80 to 30, it went to 20, and it went down under $10, and it has officially been riding its way back up. And it's very clear why. AI. Of course, when it comes to AI, when it comes to data centers, when it comes for the need of networking, hardware, infrastructure, Cisco is one of those ones, the OGs, that will be looked to provide some of the things that a lot of these companies are going to need to continue to expand and scale in AI. Wouldn't be surprised if they've been getting some back-end partnerships coming from some of the biggest companies. We've seen Oracle, Meta, Google, Amazon. We've seen we got Palantir. We have all of these companies. OpenAI, NVIDIA are really, really deep diving into AI. Now keep this in mind. Cisco went from about $550 billion in market cap to as low as $50 billion over the course of their crash from that dot-com bubble bursting. And they are officially riding that wave back up. Now, I'm wondering though. I'm not saying go buy Cisco, rack up on their shares. If anything, we should have been racking up at the start of this AI trend to where we know what Cisco offered. We know how big they were back in 2000 and how they were going to be the company that investors heavily relied on to power these dot-com startups. We should have been looking as this AI trend really started creeping in when Cisco was at its lowest point. But of course, we never know how things are going to really work in the future. So I'm not saying buy, I'm not saying just hop into a trade, but I am saying watch it because my mind is like, okay, will Cisco take that lesson that they got from back in 2000, we're talking about 2 decades ago, will they take that and will they say, okay, we're not going to go all in on this AI trend right now because we saw what happened with the dot-com bubble. We saw how we went all in and everything came crashing down for us. And because it's such a major, major talk that AI is a bubble, will Cisco hop on board even with this potentially being history repeating itself? And when you think about it, look, it took them 20 years to recover. So 20 years to recover and 25 years total. Well, pushing 26. But considering where they are, we can kind of say they've recovered. But will they take the risk on AI? Will they take the risk going all in, whether it's partnerships, whether it's investments, whether it's acquisitions, whatever? Will they take that risk again? Because it just really makes sense why Cisco is officially making its way back up, because they could potentially be needed as we expand further into the AI space. Okay, so what I want to do really quickly to close out this video is look at the charts, kind of see what we're working with, look at where they were, where they went, and potentially some levels you can watch if you are interested in trading it. Now, I'm not long term on it yet because I really want to do a even more deep dive into Cisco to try to see where they're headed potentially with them really going all in on AI the way that they did with the dot-com bubble. So we're going to go to the charts. We're going to look at Cisco and we're going to see exactly what we're working with to kind of take into the rest of the year or mostly next week, just to kind of see how things play out. Now, as you guys can see where I got this here alert. I had this alert here at this $63 level and it's around 62, but actually a little bit higher. Should have been like right around there. And the reason why I wanted it there was because just kind of shifting through the charts, and I decided to go to the monthly time frame. Then I went to the 3-month time frame and I started to kind of notice where we saw some nice size rejection came on into the 6-month, and it just kind of brought it into focus. Now, Cisco hit the stock market in 1990. Okay, this right here is the dot-com bubble. Right up in here. Well, I'm gonna say dot-com bubble, but the dot-com era. Okay, and this is where the stock was. They hit as high as $82 here. As you guys can see, a very nice rejection there, and this thing came on down. Now, this is the lowest point that they were here, of course, around the time they first came to the market. But from that crash at the top, from that $82 on down here, we can probably be looking at about $8.19. Not fully counting here. Remember, we're looking after the dot-com crash happened or the bubble pop, which would be about $8. So this is what I mean when I say we probably should have been making our way in there. But hey, back in '06, I was not even worried about the stock market. But for those of you who were around when this whole thing went down, and you know exactly what that was like and the companies that may have been affected or were talked about the most, this could definitely be the opportunity to revisit some of those things, but with caution. Okay, so this is where we came down to, and this is where we are now. So this right here was that peak at $82 even. So we're going to put 82 here. That is where it hit. So as you can see, we are just about $2 short of hitting that mark. And this is why I want you guys to keep it on your radar, simply because it could do one or two things. It could bounce there, where reject there. We can get to $82 and it will potentially reject by simply seeing the fact, market psychology, that's all this is here. hitting this level that it was at its peak in 2000 and come down. Now, I'm not saying come crashing down, but it can hit that level, reject, and retest some lower levels, but it can also break because it's getting back to a point that it has not been in over 2 decades. So it breaks there, we could definitely expect this thing to begin to rally. And it may not be a straight shot rally, but I definitely can see this thing pushing up, especially if it's being tied really closely to the AI markets, okay? Whether it's partnerships, whether they're just expecting Cisco to really deep dive with the rest of the company, okay? Now, I don't really see them going too hard on it. They may, I don't know. But there's a possibility that they could look at this as a we don't want to do what we did last time that resulted in us seeing this massive, massive crash. But sometimes they may see this as a good opportunity in AI, the same way they saw, the .com era when, the internet really was popping off as a great opportunity. So we just have to see. So where we are now, we are around 82, and we are right up in this area here. And the thing I always like to point out, of course, are gaps. Okay, and so we are working with a gap right up in this area here. So the main thing with, kind of looking at them is just kind of seeing if they will attempt to come back and refill the gap. But we don't have to exactly look at it just yet. I always take into consideration the way a stock moves, okay, in terms of increments. Does it move $5 on a day? $2, $10 on a day. So it gives you an idea of how long it could potentially take for a gap to refill. Okay, so that's all it is. Now, this is what I'm kind of just hit right off the looking at this hourly time frame. Okay, it's right up here in this area, up in here. Okay, so let's go to the daily really quickly, and we're going to look at the type of movement that this thing can make. Now, right here, this massive candle here is only just short of $3. So it's not a huge move that this thing's made. Remember, these are daily time frame. Now, this candle here was 66 cents. So this is why I say take into consideration the way the stock move on a daily basis, so you'll know how much time you will potentially need to see something make a move on the charts. All right. So that just kind of gives an idea here. This here is about a $2.25 move. This here is 62 cents, not much, okay? So this is where we are now at this $80.25. And so I was looking to see if this thing could get above here. As you can see, we closed above this 79.89 level. If it can hold above that, let's just say we have this nice little run up here, we might see some sideways movement right along these lines before it reattempts to push up there to that $82. How long it could take, we don't know. It could take a couple of days. Remember, about $2. So I would say 2, 3, 4 days. Just all depends on what's happening on the market that this thing could push up to 82, that we can get that moment of truth and see what happens. Now remember, we have no data above 82. Okay, that was the highest point that Cisco has been over the last 25 years. Well, since that last time it hit 82, that's the highest it's been. So we have no data to go by up here. So it could hit, it could reject, it could come back, and it could retest around this level. If it can hold up, it may push up and make some new highs. Or it could break below that. And I wouldn't be surprised. We break below 79, then I will be looking to see that they come right around this little area here, around 78.12. Remember the increments that it moved, and then retesting the top of this gap over time at around $75. So we have all of this stuff here. Okay, there's some small increments, which is why I wasn't going to just really go through all of them, but 78, 76, 75, and then we have this little gap here, and the bottom of it is at 74.11. Okay, so rejecting here, retesting these lower levels would be some levels that I would be looking at. We have no levels to go by at the top, so we just have to see what happens when it gets to $82. So I wanted to bring that up because once that alert went off, it showed, okay, we're getting much closer to that $82 mark to where it was. it's highly understandable why it's pushing back up to, like, we're seeing this thing grow again because of this AI ride that we've been on. Trillions of dollars are looking to be pumped into AI over the next 5 to 10 years alone. And we've seen these massive multi-billion-dollar partnerships that are taking place among some of the biggest companies in the world, with OpenAI and NVIDIA being in the center of them. So keep your eye on Cisco. Their ticker is SCS. No, it's CSCO. Cisco. Okay. So keep it on your radar. I'm not saying, deep dive in just yet. Be gentle on calls because we don't have anything above 82 to go by. And quite honestly, I will be looking to see a pullback happen if I decide to trade this thing, because I want to see it get back at least to those low 70s before I would really just make a move and try to ride this thing up. So I wanted to put that on everyone's radar. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.